So 2 years ago I had a stroke which left me with a speech impediment. I stuttered terribly and couldn't get a word out at all, let alone string together a sentence. Headway helped me to be able to speak again. It was a lifesaver. Through art and doing the intricate detail that I really enjoy, it allowed my brain to switch off, and I became calm and I found that I could talk.
She's improved because I've taken her out of that copying and into doing her own interpretations of how she wants her art to be. And so she's doing more cognitive thinking to get to an end result rather than just copying.
Well, when I was 17, just turned 17, I was out and out with people and girlfriend and cookmates in the front. And the driver just passed his driving test, and I can't remember, but he apparently flipped over and took a short curve right off. I had to cut my out. And I got whiplash injury. My son's straight into a coma. Well, it's got me brain organised, had the files sorted out. I see it's a big filing cabinet in your brain, and all the files are jumbled up in the accident. And the artist helped me get hold of control, say. When I started getting serious in art, I was 9 or 10 years old. It's the first lesson I learned about actually drawing how to make with the face. So it's fascinating to me to just get people, draw people.
Lee was an art student before his accident, and he did carry on doing some art after his accident. He's been to university and he's very creative, and he did have excellent skills. He still has. Unfortunately, the dexterity in his right hand is waning, so we're encouraging more work with the left hand, but I'm not leaving his right hand alone as a form of physiotherapy to get that detail he could once obtain, and hopefully we'll get it back. So what we've done is, to help him carry on creating, we've switched from his wonderful portraits, which have a lot of detail, and now he's focusing on abstract art where the detail's not so necessary. So he's still quite happy, and he's getting really into it now.
So last year, after I had my brain tumour removed, I had a stroke, and when I woke up I had a really bad right-sided weakness, and to get myself moving again properly with my right side, I started doing art, and I was doing it all throughout rehab, and it's helped me a lot.
And when I met her, she was showing me lots of little paintings of teddy bears and things like that, and I said, you should be putting that into works of art rather than just painting a teddy and a dolphin. Make pictures out of it. So now she's creating her own big canvases with her ideas, which is using from her memory and her brain. Sometimes she needs a little bit of help, but
I have got one arm where I lost it in a motorbike accident, and I've lost my eyesight in an accident as well. And I've got the head injury with the accident. It helps me associate with people, and there's people who come here who are a lot worse than me, and they can put us right on things we're doing wrong, where we shouldn't think of others like taking the mick out of us all the time. I used to love doing art before my accident. I was a master painter and decorator, and a teacher in swimming, which I'll have a hard job of doing now.
Mark is very independent. He'll come up with some ideas of things to do, which are sometimes a bit bizarre and a bit random. He's just been outside collecting pebbles out of the rockery, and he's just painted those in pretty colours. But if there's ever time I can sit down with him and say, right, do this, like a one-to-one tutorial, he really starts to get it, he starts to understand it more. And he can't work in detail, he doesn't like copying, he just likes making up his own little ideas and his own workshops.
What happened to me was I had a brain hemorrhage whilst I was away celebrating my birthday, and then was in a coma for 3 weeks, then in hospital for 8 months. And then after coming out of hospital, I've got in touch with Headway and started coming to do art sessions. And what it's been for me is just relaxing time, just where I can focus on something and just have a bit of kind of peace, just to let my thoughts kind of process.
I give them a practice piece when they first come in, and then I know straight away what their skill is, and I thought, yeah, she knows what she's doing, she can paint. It doesn't matter if they can't, and I have a lady in there at the moment who's never painted before in her life and she's still doing it. So it just gives me some idea of their dexterity, their mobility, you know, how their injuries affected everything. Then I know how I can start.
My name's Tamsin and I've been at Headway for 2 years. Had a head injury 2 years ago last February. I was attacked and hit on the head and it caused a bleed on the brain. And I got involved with Headway about 5 months later, and they're really good, really supportive. I found my life is turned round, although I've got the disability, but it's unseen, so it doesn't look like I've got anything wrong with me, which I find difficult to cope with, because I act normal and I think normal, but I know I'm not. I've got to learn to do things again. Although I didn't have an operation, which is a blessing, but it still caused a lot of damage. My first painting was an elephant, which I drew first, and I was quite impressed with the outcome of that. And it was like, wow, that's amazing for me to do that. And then I painted a castle, and my dad looked at it and he said, I know which castle that is, it's Keyless Castle in Scotland. I went, how do you know that? He said, because you've done that really well. I don't think I did. I thought that was a big, ambitious one. And my daughter likes koalas, so I painted a koala for her. Because if I try and write letters, I can't think and get it out. You know, it's in here, but it just doesn't come out. But with painting, it's your way of expressing how you're feeling as well. So it is really, really calming. I find art and hand on heart, it's very therapeutic, because I've spoken to my son and asked if he can help me build a shed in the garden, so I can have an art shed. My grandchildren heard about it and they said, oh Nanny, you can have some painting in your shed. I went, yeah, I'm going to do some artwork, because I feel when I get frustrated, I'll sit and doodle and I draw, and then things will just come out that I never even thought I could do. Some of the artwork that people produce is absolutely amazing. You think the ability, if you've had a massive head injury, or you've had a bleed on the brain, you've had an aneurysm, you've had a tumour, whatever, so you've had any operation to sort that, you don't realise that the abilities you have that will come forward to produce work that some people do produce. It's really, really interesting. Yeah, I currently volunteer for Headway as well, and I enjoy that, and I wish I could have more days. I wish I was not a client all the time. I wish I was volunteering more, because you still get the support if you're the volunteering side, and that comes from my occupation as a cardiographer before brain injury, and God rest him, my husband passed away 5 years ago. He also had a brain injury, but I didn't. So with him having that, it's helped me understand about the effects of brain injury, because it is your brain that's been affected, not just your head. And the volunteering comes from, I can't help it. If I see people needing help, I'll just go in there, because my nature is to care, because I did care for 20 years. And that is me helping Headway, giving something back to Headway for what they've done for me. So I'd give every day to volunteer if I could, and go to different places, which I find really interesting, and I can't wait to do that.
Tamsin, she lacks a lot of confidence, and I don't really know why. She's more than confident and she can do lots of beautiful work, but she thinks she needs more help than she actually does. Because she doesn't come over as much as the others, she starts to realise that it doesn't matter, it doesn't have to look like that, it's your style. And once you get past those barriers of something having to look like something, and that's what cameras are for, then they're flying. You know? And I think when people discover their imagination and their creativity, the world's their oyster. It's not about copying a photograph exactly like the photograph or exactly like the print. I don't think that's very satisfying, and I don't think that's teaching art. And I think they're finding their own way, creating their own art, which is very fulfilling. And they're coming in with ideas now of what they want to do. This year I've approached the group, Worcestershire Artists, and I said I'd like it to exhibit the work at Headway, created by people with acquired brain injuries. And I said, because there's too much of a stigma attached, and some of them are extremely good artists, and I want the opportunity for them to show their work off. So we're creating an exhibition, we're going to have an opening night, and it'll be advertised by Worcestershire Arts, and hopefully people will turn up here every Monday and every Wednesday when I'm here to come and look at the work. Some of it will be for sale, and some will be donated into Headway, and the artists will get to keep a bit for themselves. And it's just very good for anybody who's struggling mentally, physically. It's just a great way. I'm a great believer in art as therapy.